All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into some source material that, well, it pretty much challenges everything you think you know about one of the most powerful people on the planet, Bill Gates. You know the story, right? For decades, Bill Gates has been painted as this tech visionary, this self-made genius, and now a global savior. It's a really powerful image, and honestly, it's shaped how we all think about incredible wealth and giving it away.
But is that really the whole story? Because there's a whole body of critical source material out there that's basically screaming for us to take a closer look. It offers a totally different narrative, one that really questions how he got his success, his money, and his incredible influence.
Okay, so let's start with that public icon, the one we all recognize. The source material we're breaking down today basically argues this image was carefully, very carefully built. And maybe it's not the real picture.
And this slide really lays it out. Look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the public image we all know, tech genius, self-made billionaire. But on the other, you have what the sources allege, master marketer, beneficiary of connections, cutthroat monopolist. It's a completely different person.
So, to really get where these sources are coming from, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, back to what they call the original sin, the birth of the whole Microsoft empire.
So everything hinges on what might be the most important deal in the history of technology, Microsoft landing the contract to provide the operating system for IBM's very first PC. But here's the kicker. According to these sources, when Microsoft got that deal, they didn't actually have an operating system to sell.
So how did it happen? Well, the source lays out this incredible path. It wasn't about some brilliant invention in a garage. Step 1, a crucial connection. Bill's mother, who was on a board with the chairman of IBM, makes the introduction. Step 2, this tiny company, Microsoft, lands the massive contract without the product. So step 3, they quickly go out and buy an existing system for just $75,000. And then, the masterstroke, step 4, they rebrand it as MS-DOS and license it to IBM, but, and this is so important, on a non-exclusive basis. That meant they could sell it to everyone else, and that's how the empire was built.
But wait, it gets even deeper. The sources don't just stop at the purchase. They claim that the software Gates bought for a song was itself a copy of another inventor's work.
And that brings us to this guy, Gary Kildall. The source material really paints him as the true pioneer, the one who actually created the first real operating system for personal computers. His work, they allege, was basically copied, repackaged, and then sold by Microsoft. And as you can see, Kildall was actually fighting this in court for years, right up until his death in 1994. So that story, that alleged original sin, really sets the stage for what the sources say became Microsoft's signature strategy for decades. A simple, ruthless approach they call buy or bury.
And this quote, wow, it supposedly comes from a showdown with Steve Jobs, who was furious, accusing Gates of stealing the idea for the Windows graphical interface. Gates' alleged reply says it all. Quote, "It's more like we both had this rich neighbor named Xerox, and I broke in to steal the TV set and found out that you had already stolen it." The source presents this as a peek behind the curtain, a mindset where taking ideas wasn't wrong, it was just how the game was played.
And the sources just keep laying out this pattern, over and over. From allegedly using their special access to Apple to build the competing Windows OS, to reportedly threatening to crush Hotmail if they didn't sell out. And of course the big one, bundling Internet Explorer for free with every copy of Windows to completely wipe out the leading browser, Netscape. It all came to a head in 1999 when a judge literally ruled that Microsoft was an illegal monopoly. Now that ruling was later overturned on appeal, but for a moment the business model was laid bare.
So by the end of the 90s, after that monopoly ruling, Bill Gates' public image was in the gutter. To a lot of people, he was the villain of the tech world. And what happened next? Well, the source calls it a masterstroke of PR.
Right when his reputation hit an all-time low, Bill Gates did a complete 180. He pivoted. The monopolist suddenly became the world's savior, launching the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and announcing he was going to give away his entire fortune to solve the world's biggest problems. And this brings us to a really fundamental question that the source keeps coming back to. It's a paradox, really. If a man is giving away his entire fortune to charity, how on earth does his net worth more than double? Since starting the foundation, his wealth has ballooned from around $50 billion to way over $100 billion. How does that even work? Well, the source argues it's because this isn't charity as we usually think of it. They call it a vicious charity circle, and it works like this. First, Gates donates money to his own tax-free foundation. That foundation then invests that money in big pharmaceutical companies.
Then, the foundation uses its massive global influence to promote the vaccines and drugs made by those exact same companies. Finally, governments buy those products, the pharma stocks soar, and Bill Gates' personal fortune grows right along with them. It's a perfect self-sustaining loop.
And look, the source is quick to point out this isn't just some conspiracy theory. They point directly to Bill Gates himself. In a 2019 interview, he actually boasted that his $10 billion investment in vaccine initiatives brought back $200 billion. That's a 20-to-1 return on investment. Pretty incredible.
Now, all that financial power, it doesn't just sit in a bank account. According to the source, it translates directly into something far more valuable: unprecedented global influence. It allows one unelected private citizen to essentially shape global health policy for all of us.
And the scale of this influence is just staggering. The Gates Foundation is the biggest non-governmental donor to the World Health Organization. Its priorities pretty much become the WHO's priorities. The source even alleges that Gates used this influence to pressure Oxford University into giving an exclusive COVID vaccine license to AstraZeneca, a company the foundation happened to be invested in. It all boils down to one simple but powerful question from the source: who elected him?
So, to try and make sense of all these alleged actions, from the MS-DOS deal all the way to global health, the source suggests we have to look past the business strategy and consider let's say, a specific kind of mindset.
The source points to what some psychologists call the dark triad of personality traits. First, there's narcissism, this deep belief in your own superiority. Then, Machiavellianism, a worldview where morals don't really matter, only winning does. And finally, psychopathy, a basic inability to feel empathy for others. The source claims this combination is what allows someone to be incredibly charming and seem benevolent on the surface while acting absolutely ruthlessly behind the scenes.
And here's the thing. According to the source, we all kind of play a part in this. Our media worships wealth and power. Our leaders roll out the red carpet. We're constantly told to look up to these figures as role models, something to aspire to. And that's the core argument here. This deference, this almost automatic admiration we have for extreme wealth, it stops us from asking the really tough questions. Questions like, where did that money really come from? Who is actually benefiting from all this charity? And is all that power in one person's hands being used responsibly? In the end, the source material we've looked at today doesn't pretend to have all the answers. Not at all. Instead, it just leaves us with one final, very pointed question to think about. When you see power and wealth concentrated like this in one person, is being skeptical just an option, or is it actually our responsibility?